Picture a kind, friendly teacher your children learn from. She is always happy to see them and you whenever you meet. Nothing about her, and this is important, raises any suspicion. And it was exactly this kind of person who one day raped her 11-year-old student. And, judging by the circumstances, it was a carefully planned crime, not some kind of accident, if that's even possible in the context of such actions. She was preparing this step by step, taking baby steps. Today we'll talk about 34-year-old Ms. Ali Bartfield, a teacher from Greenlaw, who is currently facing up to 40 years behind bars. Ali herself, at first glance, is really an ordinary woman from an ordinary American town, married. She didn't work full-time at the school, but as a substitute, so she could work in different classes, and because of this had access to a large number of different children. The woman took part in school events and talked with parents. Still, nothing about her appeared suspicious. But as you understand, there is a huge hairy butt here that she was hiding. Interestingly, American schools have rather strict rules about teachers communicating with students outside of school. There are protocols that regulate how and when a teacher can privately contact a child. But when everyone around you trusts you when you are that same friendly Mrs. Bartfield, then the rules become not just a formality, but let's say something that can be bent a little. The story started recently in 2023. One day, the teacher suggested to her student, an 11-year-old boy, that they play together and spend some time together on a sort of playdate. Basically, it sounded pretty innocent. Usually, it means that kids get together, watch cartoons, and play something. And that's pretty much how it was at first, but here's where we need to pause. In American culture, a playdate is really a common thing when kids arrange to play at each other's houses. But usually this happens between peers whose parents know each other. In other words, not with teachers. Accordingly, when an adult, even a teacher, suggests to a child to have a playdate, it can and should raise questions. For some reason, no one questioned it. The meetings grew more frequent, and soon the boy began visiting the woman alone to play. No other children were there, just him and her. This is a classic grooming scheme, a gradual taming of the victim, where boundaries are blurred so slowly that the child simply doesn't realize that something is wrong. And something really is wrong. Very, very wrong. In May 2024, the boy stayed overnight at the woman's place. I don't know why the parents let their child stay overnight at the teacher's house. This definitely doesn't seem like some extracurricular activity or anything like that. I couldn't find any information about this. I can only assume that the woman inspired incredible trust, and she knew how to do it. Let's put it that way. I don't know. She might have told the parents some story about educational projects or that the boy needed extra support and something like that. Such monsters always find explanations for their actions. They know how to do that. They know how to speak to avoid suspicion and earn trust. But the reality, as we already know, was different. It's important that on the night when the boy stayed over at the teacher's place, it was just her and him there. Her husband wasn't home. Maybe he went somewhere for work, I don't know, but that's the point. Imagine an 11-year-old boy spending the night at his teacher's house. That's already crazy. I'm not sure how the parents agreed to this again, but they did. Anyway, the woman took the boy to the bedroom, not to a separate room or anything, but to the place where she usually slept with her husband. I won't go into details. Maybe I'll publish this video later for everyone so YouTube doesn't block it. And basically, I don't want to deal with this. In short, she used the child in the worst sense of the word. As expected, the boy's behavior changed a lot, and his mother noticed these changes. Children in general aren't really good at hiding such traumas. They show up in behavior, even when the child can't or is afraid to talk about what really happened. And from that moment on, the boy basically stopped being himself. He became silent and withdrawn, you know? When his mom asked him if he was really okay, he just said, okay. These are classic trauma signs. The child feels ashamed, wondering if they did something wrong. Or even if they tell someone, they won't be believed, because the adult is an adult and they're just a child. Maybe it's my fault or I'm to blame. Like many parents in similar situations, the boy's mother initially suspected something had happened at school that he wasn't telling her. She didn't want to consider that. My God, you just don't expect when a child is silent that someone may have raped them. That's right, it's terrible. But in the end, her maternal instinct told her that this was definitely one of those cases when something was really wrong. and it's somehow connected to that case when the child spent the night at the teacher's place. So, the woman decided to check her son's phone and found something that confirmed her worst fears. Messages from Ali Bartfield that were nothing like how a child should communicate with their teacher. There were nudes, photos together with the child at the woman's home, inappropriate pictures, and money transfers to the child's account through Cash App. The amounts varied over time, totaling about $700. Money is another element of the scheme. Predators often use it to sort of buy the victim's silence, or to create a sense of a special relationship, like this is our secret, you're special. I give you money because I love you. Phrases like this help manipulate the child, the victim. $700 is a lot for an 11-year-old, even in the United States. Maybe the woman told the boy that it was for good behavior, for being her friend, or for something else. The thing is, children don't understand that, in reality, this is hush money. Eventually, the mother and son were directly asked about it and what he had done with the teacher. And the son told them. The mother was, of course, in shock. I can't even imagine what kind of shock she was in. But she called the cops anyway, and they took up the case. I want to add that telling about something like this takes a huge amount of courage for a child. After all, he might have thought again that he did something wrong. Overall, this is a trauma I thankfully can't even imagine. And I guess in this regard, the guy did well. In such cases, cops act very carefully. First of all, you need to protect the child from additional trauma. Secondly, it's important to collect all the evidence that exists. Criminals like this usually deny everything, which is what happened. Initially, Bartfield claimed she knew, heard, and saw nothing. But in the end, it was impossible to deny the photos of herself naked with the child. Digital evidence these days is a big deal. Even if you delete messages from your phone, experts can often recover them. Well, and money transfers through Cash App leave a digital trail that's impossible to deny. Later, the examination confirmed the fact of rape, but it gets more interesting. Then the teacher said, yes, it happened, but blamed the boy, saying he seduced and tempted her, even blackmailed her, though didn't rape her. In short, I'm the victim here, got it. Again, for such monsters, it's a completely classic story to blame the child for everything, for all of it. He wanted it, she seduced me and all that. Disgusting and cynical, but what else did you expect from people like them? In my opinion, the comments here are obvious, but just in case, I have a question in my head. How can an 11-year-old child even seduce, I repeat, seduce a 34-year-old woman? If you have any ideas, then just unsubscribe from this channel for fuck's sake. One way or another, the investigation and all the collected evidence definitely did not work in the woman's favor. Messages, photos, money transfers, and witness testimonies were all collected and given to the court. In August 2025, it became known that Ali Bartfield pleaded guilty to a serious criminal offense, raping a minor. Maybe she realized the evidence was too strong, maybe her lawyer advised it, or she hoped for a reduced sentence. Well, or maybe she suddenly grew a conscience, but I don't believe that, and honestly, who knows? So, from being a role model, the sweet, friendly woman Zelenoshu became an example that you can't trust anyone. Even teachers who initially seem sweet and friendly. Some sources even say that the woman has children of her own, but this information has not been confirmed. Maybe she's being hidden to protect the children's mental health, because just imagine what would be happening around them. If that's the case, I think the story is just a bit sadder. The local communities were also in shock because this wasn't just about some crime, but a crime committed by a person they trusted with their children. Everyone, who lived there. Well, imagine finding out that, God forbid, your child from your school was raped by a teacher, a man or a woman who works there. It's just, social media exploded with discussions. How can we be sure about those who are around our children? Some called it an isolated incident, while others believed it was just the tip of the iceberg. At the school where Ms. Bartfield taught, they reviewed their safety protocols afterward. Parents in the community began checking on their children more often, asking if they were okay and looking at their phones, which is understandable. In a few weeks, the court will put a final end to the case of Ali Bartfield. Let me remind you that most likely she will spend 40 years behind bars. Overall, I think this is yet another reminder that evil often and very frequently hides behind a friendly, kind mask. So trust but verify. That's how it is, dear ones. That's all, thank you. Come on, Bublik, wave your paw. Slivka, come on. That's all. Kiss, kiss. We're leaving. Next, the hospitals.